How did Cleopatra die? Think about that for a second. Everyone thinks they know the answer. A snake, a bite, a suicide, right? What if I told you that whole story was made up from start to finish? You've been hearing the same fairy tale for 2,000 years. A queen wrapped a snake around her arm and died peacefully. Sounds romantic, but the truth is nowhere near that clean. This is not a suicide story. This is a murder case. The Cleopatra mystery begins now. Let me set the scene first. The year is 30 BC. Alexandria is about to fall. The Roman army is at the gates. The commander is Octavian, young, ruthless, ambitious. His target is Cleopatra. He doesn't want her dead. No, he wants her alive. Why? He's planning a massive victory parade in Rome. He'll chain the queen of his conquered lands, march her in front of the crowds. A humiliated queen. For Octavian, this is the perfect show. Proof of power, symbol of victory, a warning from the empire. Cleopatra hears about this. Chained up and paraded around like a spectacle, she chooses death. At least that's how the story was told. Hold on a second. Who wrote this script? And why did they always tell it the same way? Let's look at the official story. History books say Cleopatra ordered a basket of figs. The basket was brought to the palace. Hidden inside was an Egyptian cobra. Cleopatra picked up the snake, pressed it to her chest. The venom spread, and the queen closed her eyes. Peace on her face, almost like she was sleeping. Cinematic scene, isn't it? Hollywood loves this. Painters love this. Historians? They're not so sure. Two names wrote this scene. Plutarch. He wrote it 100 years after it happened. Cassius Dio. He wrote it 200 years after. Neither of them ever visited the scene. Both were Roman. Both were on the winning side. Let me ask you something. What happens in a courtroom where only the defendant's lawyer gets to talk? That's exactly what Roman propaganda was. History written by the winners. Rome didn't write history. Rome built history. Cleopatra was always portrayed the same way. Seductive, manipulative, a dangerous Eastern woman. This isn't a portrait. This is a straight-up smear campaign. Let's just say Rome's PR team did a great job. A ready-made scapegoat to explain Mark Antony's defeat. Blame it on love. Cover up the political mistakes. And Rome's honor is saved. Here's something else you need to know. Cleopatra actually spoke 9 languages. She was a diplomat. She pushed through reforms that kept Egypt's economy running. She was the first leader in the Ptolemaic dynasty to learn the people's language. Rome painted her as nothing more than a side character in a love story. Introduced her as Antony's lover instead of the last ruler of a 300-year-old dynasty. That was a deliberate choice. So the woman is running a country, and Rome stuffs her into a romance novel. Anyway, let's get to the real issue. Let's look at the forensic evidence. Most people get this wrong about an Egyptian cobra bite. It's not painless, not even close. Severe pain, swelling, muscle paralysis, difficulty breathing, and death doesn't come fast. It can take hours, sometimes longer. Doesn't match the peaceful death story in the books at all. Second problem is size. An Egyptian cobra can be around 6 feet long. Would that cobra fit in a fig basket? Seriously, is nobody questioning this? Wouldn't the person carrying the basket notice? Wouldn't the palace guards check? Third problem is control. A snake is not a pet. It doesn't take orders. It doesn't obey commands. It won't bite on cue. Sometimes it won't bite at all. Sometimes it won't even inject venom. There's something called a dry bite. Modern herpetologists say roughly 20% of cobra bites deliver no venom whatsoever. So using a snake as a weapon is incredibly risky. Would a woman as smart as Cleopatra pick such an unreliable method? I don't buy it. Here's the shocking detail. Cleopatra didn't die alone. 2 of her handmaidens died the same day. Iris and Charmian. 3 people. Same time, same place. Can a single snake kill 3 people? The forensic evidence says no. A cobra's venom is generally enough for 1 person per bite. 3 people is impossible. Keep that in mind. So what happened? Some researchers think a plant-based poison mixture was used. Maybe aconite, maybe opium, maybe a cocktail of both. Poison experts of that era knew these formulas. Cleopatra herself was experienced in toxicology. Even Plutarch admits this. According to his writings, Cleopatra had different poisons tested on prisoners. She was researching which poison killed the fastest and the most painlessly. Would this woman resort to something as primitive as a snake? Planned, calculated, a joint decision by all 3. But what if it wasn't their decision at all? The answer might change everything. Stay tuned for part 2. What if it wasn't their decision at all? The assassination theory enters the picture here, and we have a prime suspect, Octavian. Think about it. He said he wanted Cleopatra alive, but he couldn't protect her. Or couldn't he? Maybe he didn't want to. A living Cleopatra meant danger for Rome. The public might feel sorry for her. Antony's memory could resurface. A wave of sympathy could wreck all his plans. That was Octavian's worst nightmare. But a dead Cleopatra? Tragic ending, dignified fall, undisputed victory. Nobody asks questions. Here's the weird part. Octavian specifically sent his men to stop Cleopatra from killing herself. But when they entered the room, the queen was already dead. Funny timing, right? Either they were too late, or they were right on time. You know, if you believe in coincidences. Look at the details. Who broke the news of her death first? Octavian. Who first told the snake story? Octavian. Who saw the body first? Octavian's men. Who controlled the scene? Octavian again. Was there motive? Yes. Was there opportunity? Yes. Who controlled the narrative? Octavian. Ask any detective and they'd tell you that's more than enough. The symbolic side of this is a whole other thing. In Egypt, a snake isn't just an animal. It's sacred. The pharaohs wore the uraeus on their crowns. The snake represented royal power, divine protection. So a queen dying by snakebite? That's not an ordinary death. That's a full-on mythological scene. A little too convenient, don't you think? Almost like someone sat down and wrote a screenplay. A legend that worked perfectly for Rome. Did a snake really kill Cleopatra? Or was the snake added to the story later? Rome understood the power of that symbol, and they used it to the very end. Before I wrap this up, let me say one more thing. Cleopatra was no passive victim. She fought until her final hours. She negotiated with Octavian. She made offers to secure her children's safety. She used Egypt's treasures as leverage. A leader who strategized until her very last moment. Does she sound like someone who'd just give up? Most likely she designed even her own death as a weapon. Rome was going to throw a huge victory celebration, but Cleopatra wrote the final scene herself. She refused to march in that parade. She didn't give Octavian that chance. She might have won even in death. I think that's the wildest possibility, and the one that makes the most sense. Bottom line is every source we have comes from Rome, and Rome was not neutral. Cleopatra's tomb still hasn't been found. No direct physical evidence exists. The Cleopatra mystery remains unsolved. It might never be solved, but we know one thing for sure. Somebody lied. Either Cleopatra killed herself but not with a snake, or Octavian had her killed and made up the snake story, or history has been repeating the wrong fairy tale for 2,000 years. You tell me. Drop your answer in the comments. Subscribe. On Must Know, we open up the dark and hidden pages of history and knowledge. See you in the next mystery. Take care.